So my data has all been uploaded. I'm now ready to start my visualization. So to help me to start with, I'm going to go into View and I'm going to click on the data. And this will give me my data panel. And I can see there's something called Sheet 1. And this is where I have GDP annual change, house prices, mortgage rates, and the year. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Home. And I'm going to select my first visual. And I'm going to select the line chart. So the data I'm going to add is I'm going to take the year from my x-axis. I'm going to drag that across and drop it in. The y-axis, alternatively, I could add this by clicking on Add Data. It then shows what's in Sheet 1 as a little pop-up, and I'm going to select the house prices annual change. And then I click away from the box so it disappears. Click on the visual so I get my little box around it so I can drag it. And that is our first visualization. Not very pretty, not how it's going to finish, but that is a overtime year on the bottom, 2010 to 2021, and the annual house price changes plotted on the y-axis. So the next stage is to try to improve the look and feel so that we can tell the story we wish to tell. So for this, I don't need my data pane, so I'm going to close this down, give me a bit more space. And then I'm going to click on View, and I'm going to select the Format pane. And you can see the Format pane now appears. Because I've still got my visualization, I've still clicked on that, it's highlighted, it's active, it's got these little dots around it, which is great. Okay, so now I'll kind of systematically work through these options to build out the visual as I so wish. I like to put a visual board around, it's up to you, but for this particular one I'm going to leave it off, but this is if I wanted to add a visual border, I'd add it there. So let's go into the title. So I can change the title by clicking in the text box and changing it here. Alternatively, and I'll show this later, I could click on the visual to do it if I don't want to open up the pane, but I'm in. So I'm going to make my title, I'm going to make it meaningful because this is going to be part of a presentation. So I want it to raise, I really want to raise a question with it. So I just type there. What? Great. I'm going to select a larger font. Make that a 2. If I could also increase the font size if I wish by going on that line. I'm going to keep it left aligned, but I am going to give it a color. So this was the image behind. I like to keep consistent colors through. I'm going to include a subtitle. And the subtitle is going just to be the time period. I'm going to make that a little bit larger too. And then I'm going to include a divider. And then if I want to see how that looks, I just click in any of the white space outside the visual and we get an indication of what it's looking like. Yep, so what has happened to house prices over the time period 2010 to 2021? Nice question that I can then answer during my presentation. Again, clicking on the visualization means I can see the format pane. I'm now going to just scroll down and include some other information. So here I'm going to remove the x-axis And I'm also going to remove the title, and this will become clearer later on because it will tidy it up. On the y-axis, where it says title text, it says auto. So it's taken this from the name and the data in the data pane. So I can just type in what I'd like to do this, what I'd like here. And we're going to make that there, fine. I can make that a little bit larger if I want to as well. There's no secondary, I haven't got a secondary y-axis in, so I'm okay with that. With the markers and lines, I'm happy with the lines as they are, but let's have a little look in the markers. We want to include those, but we wanted to make them circle, I'm happy with, but we want to make them a lot bigger, so really stand out. Really easy to read because that will give us that feeling when I put on some of the y-axis lines, which I'm going to in a moment. That'll really help stand that help the person interpret the data because they'll fill the gaps. I could, if I wish, have the data labels. If I turn that on, as you see, the values are actually there, but I find it clutters them. It's not required, so I'm going to turn that off. Then I'm going to include a trend line. And again, I'm going to keep it dashed. So I have a trend line coming through there, which is fine. I'm going to go with reference line. And the ones that I want to use, I used on the first one is to say, well, okay, I want this to be a x-axis constant. I want the value to be a 2001. Yep, that's the value. I'm going to keep the value and I'm going to change its title. And I guess say this is 2020, 2011. 2011 has appeared. I'm going to turn the data label on. So we now have 2011 if you look over at the visual. Wonderful. And now I'm going to repeat this process with a couple of other key important dates. I wanted to bring one in for 2014 to show this growth period. Then we've got sort of a period of consistent growth over time, 2016. Then it falls with slower growth to 2019. And then we've got the COVID year coming into 2020. So I want to add a data point to 2014, 2016, and 2020. Just click on Add Line, put a new one in, 2014. I'm going to choose this as an x-axis constant. I'm going to 2014 is the value. So just put the line on for me, and let's include the data label. Add a new line. Again, put in an x-axis constant. Include the data label. Add a new line. But now I'm also on the last line where it said shaded area. I'm going to turn that to on. And then the position is going to be after. So that's the blue piece. I'm going to make this much more transparent, so it's more. And I could tidy it, but I think I should set my transparency at 80. Great. So this is my visualization now working really nicely. I've got my key trends. I've got my trend line on. I've got my key dates. I've got a story hook within the title. I know I'm talking about house annual house price changes. Because I've got these vertical x-axis constant lines, I don't need the x-axis details. I can easily see that the dot between 2014 and 16 is going to be 2015. I can quickly work out this must be 12 and 13, given that's 14 and that's 11. So I don't need that extra clutter within the visual. But what I did want to have is this concept where I put text on to have this as an, as what I call acts. So this is about the storytelling part. So I just wanted to add some text now to this image. And I'll go back to home. Let me just clear that to give a bit more space to what we're talking about. And now I'm going to put my text box on. So there's something in home text box, type in what I'd like. I'm going to call this Act 1 or whatever you'd like to call it. But on my template I've got Act 1. It's set as size 10. I've highlighted it. I'm going to make it size 16 so it's nice and clear. And I'm going to make it bold. And then I just reduce the size of the box. And if I put it in the middle, it might help me with some of my visuals later on. Okay, and now I've got to work out how to put it on this. And I have various ways of doing that. I actually, for this one, what I'm going to do is reduce this slightly and not even put it on the image, on the visual, but have it sitting below. So I've got this as Act 1 like that. Then once I'm happy, I can just Control, paste. Act 2. Act 3. Act 4. Act 5. So I think that's got a nice achieve what I want to achieve with the first visualization. So we're now able to tell that story really, really nicely. What I'd like to do now is to create a scatter plot to show the relationships coming through. If I wanted to put more, before I do that, if I wanted to put more information on, I can. So for instance, I went back and inserted, so this time instead of going home, I'm going to insert, I click on the Insert tab and I select text box. I might include something such as I might put that down as the high growth period. Right. And I might put this down as a low growth period. And of course, it gives me the option of putting this down as a and you can explore and experiment as you work this through, as you get the sort of text you're looking for. So I could put this information on, which again gives me some really nice annotation so I understand what I'm looking at in that sense and in that sort of time period and picture.